on this episode of the Grannies.
Grandmas are always offering advice they never, ever were asked for.
That's right. It's offered with love. It's a misstep that is offered with love.
Why is it important to understand the dynamics of advice and how it changes through life?
As you grow and mature and take responsibility for your life, you develop a sense of individuality and of autonomy. One time I rebelled. I was sick. One time I was 16. I was out in California. I had a boyfriend, and we stayed on the beach till 1 o'clock in the morning. And then I thought to myself as I got into my room, I finally did it. I finally did something they didn't want. Yes, Jane.
Welcome to the Grannies, everyone, a podcast where we honor the women whose stories have shaped generations. I'm your host, Adesewa Josh, and I'm so excited to begin this journey of legacy, memory, and healing with one of the most extraordinary grandmothers I know.
Oh, thank you. I'm Jane Isay, author, grandmother, and lifelong listener to family secrets and to family wisdom. I'm thrilled to be on this journey with Adesewa as we create a space where older women, especially grandmothers, can speak openly about what they've lived, what they've learned, and how they hope to leave a wonderful legacy behind.
Well, we believe that sharing these stories can heal families, inspire communities, and remind us that aging is not decline, it's death. So we invite you to join us on this beautiful journey.
Hello and welcome to the Grannies podcast. I am Adesewa Josh.
And I am Jane Isay, and we're talking about today, I learned when I wrote this book, Walking on Eggshells.
Absolutely. So on this episode, what we're talking about is the topic advice, the kind that starts with love and often ends with irritation. I know. So the question is, why does advice feel helpful when we're young, but unbearable as we get older? I don't know. So I asked Granny Jane a while ago, and I'm going to quote her. She said it's because advice can be likened to the same grape, but timing decides whether it becomes wine or vinegar. That's loaded. So my first question will be, when you were younger, who did you listen to? Why? And why?
Well, I had to listen to my parents. My parents were born in the beginning of the 20th century. They lived through 2 world wars. They lived through the Great Depression. They were poor immigrants, and they had figured it out. And let me tell you, what they knew was the truth. You couldn't disagree with them because they had survived so much difficulty. They wanted to protect me and my brother in every possible way. So I had to be good.
Were they always right?
No, well, were they always right? Nobody is always right. But in order to survive in a family that really wanted to protect me, they loved me, they wanted me to be okay. We lived in New York City. I was free at 9 years old, I was taking the subway everywhere because it was safe. But they instructed me about don't talk to strangers on the way to the subway.
Do you think the happenings of the times that our parents grew up in shapes the kind of advice they give to us?
Absolutely.
And how much of that is relevant as we grow older?
Well, it turns out that I have learned from my research and talking to people for 20 years.
Let me see that book.
It's called Walking on Eggshells.
Oh, this book changed my life. Talk to us more about it.
So when my grown children, I quit my job. I thought I was going to be a freelance editor. But my grown children, who were in their early 20s, stopped returning my phone calls. And I couldn't control them anymore. I wanted them to build their own lives. They were building their own lives. It broke my heart. I was no longer the center of their universe. I was a phone call away. And I wanted to understand the dynamics of what happens when your children leave home and go out on their own. I couldn't get any psychologist to write this book when I was an editor-in-chief at Harcourt. So when I quit, I said, I can write this book. I've taught people how to write books. And so I did. And I interviewed, for 2 years, I interviewed people from all over the country, parents and their grown children. And I learned that the dynamic changes the minute they, when they have their own door key, you no longer can get in their bedroom, right? You can no longer get in their room. They have the key to their house. And with the independence comes autonomy and power of them, which you want.
But you don't kind of want at the same time.
But the minute that happens, let's say I have sons, and when they lived at home, their rooms were a mess, okay? When I now went into their apartments, I could not comment about what was on the floor because it was theirs, it wasn't mine. And if I went to pick something up, they'd look at me and they'd think, and they would say, their faces would say, Mom, this is my house.
Yeah, it's none of your business anymore.
None of your business anymore.
Can I ask you, you used the word control.
Yeah.
And as much...
Yes.
Okay, as much as that is a thing when we're growing up, it turns into something else. As much as that's a thing when we're younger, it turns into something else when we're growing older in terms of the dynamics between the parent and the adult. Did advice ever feel comforting rather than controlling?
It was comforting when I was small. I had a very, very demanding teacher in 5th grade. I loved her because she was so demanding and I was a perfectionist. But every once in a while I'd get on her bad side or she would be angry at me. And I would come home. I could basically crawl uptown from the school to my apartment. And I would say, Miss Birnbaum, she was so angry at me, and my mother would comfort me and say, well, maybe she's having a bad day, honey. And that was advice. That was not direction, but that was comfort. And if I had sassed her talking with another friend, in school, passing a note in 5th grade, my father would say, well, maybe you shouldn't pass so many notes. Maybe you shouldn't pass so many notes. That's advice. I appreciated it.
So you said there are 2 words that just jumped at me now.
Yeah.
Direction and... What's the difference between direction and advice and comfort?
Okay, comfort says, I love you and I will help you through this difficult time. Direction says, you'd better go straight. Don't make a turn. Even though there's a candy store you want to stop.
So it's very strict, like they're
very strict.
Only one way to do this, and you better listen to me.
And you better do it.
When does that become dangerous? That mode of advice
becomes irritating when your children are old enough to drive, to vote, to contribute to Social Security when they work. They don't want to be told the direction, but what they do like is being told they're doing well when they are. And sometimes advice, you can keep advice, the wine, after when they're grown by finding a way to praise and guide at the same time.
I know that we jumped right into this topic and people be wondering why are we even talking about advice? When I asked you about the topic we're discussing today, you said, you know what, in my years of work and doing this research and writing the book, Walking on Eggshells, one of the most turbulent topics that I have heard from grandparents is how suddenly their advice and wisdom is no longer needed or even asked for. Why is it important to understand the dynamics of advice and how it changes through life and how?
Pause. As you grow and mature and take responsibility for your life, you develop a sense of individuality and of autonomy. And you are, if you come to me for advice, I'd better be kind about it. If my advice says, well, okay, he's going a new girlfriend. What do you think? Any mother who says, I don't like her much, is giving advice implicitly. Don't get so close to her. And at that point, I am giving my son a choice. Listen to mom or follow the love of my life. What kind of invasion of boundaries is a mother telling a son she doesn't like the girlfriend?
What kind of damage can the inability to balance advice
It's all about
do to these relationships?
The comfort of communication. And I have found, again, in the people I interviewed,
For walking on eggshells.
A mother of grown children will say, well, I don't know why they don't want to be with me anymore. And it turns out that she said to the daughter-in-law, you're cooking the green beans all wrong. Let me show you how to cook this.
Huh? What?
One of the things that happens when you get older, my darling, is that you think you know everything.
Yep.
Here's a story. 15 years ago, my second husband died, and I was heartbroken. He was the love of my life. My parents had made me break up with him 30 years before we found each other again. Talk about
advice.
Advice.
Direction. I can't seem to tell the difference.
Talk about vinegar. Pure vinegar. And I was so sad. And when I would say to a friend, I'm feeling so sad, she might say, go into therapy. I was already in therapy. I didn't need advice. What I needed was somebody to listen to me. Sometimes I'm dizzy. I know what to do about dizzy. If somebody says, get a cane, that means I don't want to hear you anymore. I'm going to give you advice to shut off the conversation. And very often, I'm 86 years old, I still get upset with advice from peers because I feel that they're not letting me just be me. They want me to change on the phone or on the Zoom. And that's not acceptable. And it's not acceptable when you are grown and you're on your own and you pay your own bills. And if you don't pay the electricity, it goes off. You really are a little bit allergic to parental advice about how to live your life because you're taking responsibility. And so that is true for every cohort, each generation. The other part of it is that every generation has different ideas about things. So my parents were trying to keep me alive. They wanted me to marry a doctor because in their culture, every male had to be a doctor in order to make a living, in order to be a success. When my older son called and said, I'm doing pre-med, I'm going to be a doctor, Mom, expecting, yay! I said, well, that's nice. Because what I really thought is, I'm the only Jewish mother in America that doesn't think her oldest son should be a doctor. It would be a disaster for him. I didn't say a word. Because if I had said, don't do that, David, he would have been more interested in doing it to prove me wrong. So there's this whole question, how can you figure out a way to communicate some of your thinking so that it can be heard? What is the right note to strike?
That's a very, very good landing point there, Granny Jane. And I want us to shift a little bit to when advice becomes really heavy. And I'm trying to explore here, and you've already mentioned it, adulthood and earned autonomy, life experiences versus instruction, and the moment advice starts to feel like judgment. Do you remember when advice stopped feeling helpful for you?
Oh, I was 12. I don't know.
Oh, that's early.
Yeah, but
that's really early, but I want to hear it all.
When you're a teenager, you know perfectly well that they're telling you things you don't want to do, you don't believe, because they're now.
It's the age of rebellion.
Age of rebellion. And one time I rebelled. I was sick. One time I was 16. I was out in California. I had a boyfriend, and we stayed on the beach till 1 o'clock in the morning. Well, I wasn't home by 11, and they were so angry at me. And then I thought to myself as I got into my room, I finally did it. I finally did something they didn't want. Yes, Jane.
Please tell me what happened after.
What happened after is I was there for the summer. We were necking on the beach. He wasn't important to me. I wasn't important to him. But I was so glad to have broken a rule. Because in my life, I was rule bound. I had to do everything, and I had to be perfect.
When one of your boys, did any of your boys ever reflect that back to you at some point in their lives?
You mean doing the wrong thing?
Doing
Bad?
breaking your rule?
Breaking rules, of course they did. And I'm happy to say that I had a little more empathy for them because I knew what it felt like. And when my boys were growing up in New York, there was a drug culture.
There still is.
Yes, but it was beginning then, in the early 80s in New York. And it was scary. And, not everybody followed every rule that their father and I set up. Fortunately, they survived. I was talking to a friend today who had no rules when she was growing up. She's 20 years, she's your age, a little older than you. And her parents had moved from New York, which is dangerous, and you have lots of rules, to the Midwest, where they're so nice and everybody's friendly. So her parents had no rules for the 4 children, and they got into trouble like crazy. And as they grew up, they resented the fact that there were no rules.
That's interesting.
So there's always this back and forth. And the question is, can you find the right note? Can you give it while it's still wine? And can you retreat if it's met with unappreciation?
I mean, wine is good. Vinegar has its own use too.
It does. And if you're interested in salad, yell at them, but they're not going to eat it with you.
Okay, so what makes it irritating? Is it the advice itself?
It's not the words. It's the boundary. When you're grown, you're an autonomous person, and you don't want to be told you don't want to be told what to do. Also, when you're in your 20s, you have so many things you're trying to figure out.
In your 40s.
And your 40s, and you're working on it. So somebody comes and says to you, well, you didn't figure this out. I'll tell you how to do this. It's an insult.
So it is how it is delivered, not the advice itself.
What?
It is how it is delivered, not the advice.
It's how it's delivered. And you may tell a story. You may tell a story on yourself. You may make up a story. I'm sorry, I'm telling you to be, as parents of grown children, you can get to be a little manipulative. It's not so stupid, because if you say everything you think, if you say, in my day, we did it this way, that is of no use, because it's not my day anymore, it's your day.
Exactly. It's not your day anymore. Okay, sorry.
And what's so funny about this is that when my kids, during COVID, my kids gave me a lot of advice. My son made me get a test, and I was positive. Mom, you gotta get a test, a cold January day. Mom, you can't go out. Of course I knew I couldn't go out. I had COVID. But when they said it in a way that made me feel that I was the little person in the room and they were the big person. And when you get older, you really, really need, I feel, and many of the people that I've talked to, have a sense of diminishing autonomy as you get older. And it's great that your kids want to help you, but it's also important for them to learn a way
to talk to you.
To talk to you. And in the beginning, when they talked to me it flipped when I turned 75. Because now they had an older mother. And in the first years, they talked to me in the same tone I thought that I talked to them when I was yelling at them.
So do you think
And it made me crazy.
I'm sorry. Do you think that we mirror the way our parents talk to us when they get older? So literally, whatever way we talk to you,
That's right.
we have you to blame.
Yes, you have me to blame, and I have the prayer and the hope that you will grow up and stop mimicking me and start being yourself.
Your better self.
Your better self. And I have found now that I'm really old at 86, they're beginning to treat me kindly. And when they give me advice, it's loving, and I can hear it. So it flips back and forth, back and forth. But when you have children, when you have grandchildren, it really turns into a very complicated thing. One of the things I learned when I was doing research for eggshells is that child raising, baby rearing practices change every 20 years. And in this book, I recommend that when you find out that you're going to be a grandparent, go and look up the advice your children are getting about the children, because it changes. Don't say to yourself, well, in my day, we pulled down your pants and we whacked you, because they're not doing that anymore. I found when I was researching walking on eggshells that the requirement to use seat belts was relatively new, and the parents of the children said, Mom and Dad, make the kids put on the seat belts because it's a matter of safety. If you don't listen to that advice from them, they may not let you have the children because they recognize that you're taking chances on the children's safety by not using the seat belt. And you can say as an elder, well, we survived without one. No way, lady. Follow their advice. Listen to their rules. Because they're the ones who have the responsibility for the children.
I think what I'm hearing you say now is that parents and grandparents need to re-educate themselves.
They do. They do.
So they don't get stuck in the ages and there is this...
Fortunately, the internet is full of information that your children are picking up. And my advice is if you're going, let's say you're going to Morocco. You're going on a trip to Morocco, you're going to get books about it, you're going on the internet so that you will be an accomplished tourist. So you need to be an accomplished tourist in the child rearing world of your children. And once you know that, and you know that you really cannot put a baby to sleep on its belly, it's just no longer allowed, you don't say to yourself, well, my kids survived. You say, well, that's what they're doing now. Maybe it's better.
And you know, sometimes for those who are not internet savvy,
Yes.
the kids are the best way to learn from the world that is now so different from what you used to know.
Yes.
So perhaps it's not such a bad idea to just listen to them, observe them, because they're the mirror of the new world.
They are. Yes, and if you can bear to listen to them, that's good. There are books, but I think it's useful for each 20 years to acquaint yourself with the habits and the child rearing values of their world. You can find it in books. You can Zoom a group. There are educational. There's so many different ways. You can talk to your friends. You can talk to them. You can listen to your children.
What makes advice age badly?
Advice what?
Age badly.
Well, I think it's like a megaphone. I think it's psychological. I don't think we mean to do it. But when you say, you really ought to do it this way, they hear. It's as if you're speaking with a megaphone. It comes through so much louder to them because it feels like you're taking control. You're taking over. you're crossing the boundary between their autonomy and your advice. And they know how you raise children. They're your children. They don't need your advice. They're going to make up their minds based on their own experience and based on their memories. There have been somebody in your family or in mine who you listened to because whatever it was you were hearing was delivered with so much love and respect that you didn't feel like you were being belittled. You didn't feel like the little one in the room. You felt like you were a flower given some more water and sun. Grow, my darling, to the sun. I had a friend my mother had a friend like that, and she really nurtured me in ways that nobody else could or did. And we stayed in her cottage in the summer, and I have in my bedroom a watercolor painting of that cottage, and I say goodnight to her every night.
Do you still take advice from anybody?
I take advice from everybody. Look, I take criticism from everybody. I was a book editor for 40 years, and when I write something or when we do something like this, I want to know what you think and how I can make it better. But that's about work. Do I take advice? Sure, but I only take advice. I'm only happy with advice when it's offered with respect. When I say I'm wobbly on the street and my friend says, get a cane, with that tone of voice, I don't like it. I may think about the cane, but I don't like it. So, and everybody's sensitive. In New York, we have these water towers. When my children give me advice in the wrong tone, I imagine there's a hole in the water tower and my strength and autonomy are dripping out because they've injured my ego. And I don't want to injure anybody's ego. So I have developed a way of listening to people in a way that I want to be listened to.
At what age do you notice that shift to autonomy starts in most people? Is it, for you, it was 12?
Teenage is a big shift. College is a complicated time. Many grandchildren find themselves not so happy being home because they're not making all the decisions for themselves when they're home on vacation or something like that. Then when I get a job and I'm on my own, or when I get married and I have a job and I move out of the house, new autonomy. I have felt that for those of us, when our grown children move out, it's almost as hard on us or harder on us than when they went to college, because it's a new stage of their autonomy. I continue mine being the strong one until I retire or until I reach a certain age. Then all of a sudden, they're beginning to think they're going to have responsibility for me.
Yes, we do think that, yes.
That's right. And they're going to think of giving me advice so that I'll be happy and better according to them.
Yes.
And sometimes they're right, and sometimes they're not. So I've decided to get a new dog. And I'm 86, and I thought my kids would disapprove because I'm so old. Both of them. So I told one son, and he said, "That's a great idea, Mom." When I talked to the other one a couple of days later, it was clear they had spoken. And the other one said, "That's great, Mom." And I thought, they've already made a decision that they think it's a good idea for me to get a dog, and they're giving me permission. Thank you. And they were so kind. And I thought, if only I had been that kind to them.
Was it always like that?
What?
Was that tone of communication always like that when it comes to advice? No.
It's so much, it goes down so much. It is still wine if you give it with love and respect. One of the reasons we sound so authoritarian when they're little is, first of all, we want to keep them safe. And then there's a period when we think we'd better yell because they won't follow our advice unless it's given with, do this. And that's a time when our voice changes, not for the best.
Right. But again, I want to explore vinegar.
Yeah.
In my culture, there is a saying that it takes a village to raise a kid.
Yes.
So I don't know what it takes to raise an adult if we ever do. But I guess they're saying that sometimes they will give you that advice. They don't care whether you're going to take it or not. They will be like, you might hate me now, but in 100 years. Too far, right? In 10 years, in 2 years, you're going to be grateful. So they say the advice is going to stay in your subconscious. You hate me now, but when you go into your own space,
you'll see. But that
vinegar.
Also, it's not vinegar, because you're saying at the start, you're not going to like this. That gives a respect. That offers respect to the person you're giving advice to.
So that's respecting their autonomy.
Yes.
And that's how to advise without overstepping. You're saying, you're giving them advance warning. This is not going to sound nice to you, but XYZ.
And I'm giving you this from my own experience, and I think you should take it into consideration.
What is the worst situation you're seeing in your research work of this kind of advice, wine, vinegar situation that completely destroyed communication between the three generations, and they're not talking to each other and they've not been able to figure out how to fix it?
Well, there's a trend now of people separating, family members divorcing each other. I don't know enough about that. I think it may be a result of COVID, of the separations, of people being not close. I think it's a problem. But for me, I think the advice that really makes it hard for the grown children to accept you back is advice that breaks the boundaries, crosses into subjects that are none of my business.
E.g., for example.
What?
What kind of subject that?
New baby comes. Who's going to be the godmother? It's the mother's and father's choice. So the grandma who says, no, make so-and-so the godmother, is not going to be so appreciated. If somebody gets married, grandma says, don't like the girl, not going to be appreciated. If criticizing the grandchildren and giving advice about how to make them better citizens or more acceptable to my generation is not appreciated. They're having enough trouble getting their kids to be who they want them to be. So any time that you walk into the house and go into the wrong room and tell them what to do, the door is not going to be as wide opened as graciously the next time you come.
One of the things I've heard teenagers say is, and I'm so sorry, I have to say this out loud, is that grandmas are so nosy, they never mind their business, which means grandmas are always offering advice they never, ever were asked for.
That's right. And this is, and it's offered with love. It's a misstep that is offered with love, but it means to the children, they're overstepping and they're trying to control me. I'm not in their house anymore. And if a grandma says, well, give him the extra cookie, the parents may say yes, and then when he gets weighed at the pediatrician, I'll be in trouble again. You don't know the whole story. And my advice to grandparents and cookies, I've told you this, is give them all the cookies they want before they can talk. Because once they can talk, they'll rat you out and say, Grandma gave me a lot of cookies.
Is there a way to frame advice to make it sound less like an advice and then just sort of make it a question?
There is a way. The first principle is to take your ego out of it. You don't ever think, well, I did it this way, I'll just tell them. You think to yourself, this is a problem. Maybe there might be a way in which I could offer some loving help. If you see everything that they're doing through the lens of what you did, or in the decanter of your ego, they're not going to like it. If you can take your ego out of it and say, what is a story I could tell them? Remember Hilly from Ohio and what happened there. Make up a story.
And grandmas are great storytellers, that's for sure.
Well, we are. and we can find ways
If you want to, yeah.
We can find ways to offer loving help in a way that is not always misunderstood as advice.
What advice do you now refuse to give unless asked?
Okay, I refuse choice of school for the grandchildren. I refuse to comment on anybody's friends. I find ways to praise each one, to praise everything. They're all wonderful. And one of the great secrets is to praise what you see as something new and different and better. And each of our children has aspects of their lives that are praiseworthy. And there's a sense in which you can make that happen by praising the good stuff.
What advice would you give to your younger self, but will never force on anybody? Or shall I say, you would never offer to anybody else?
Well, that's a hard question. But one of the things I regret is that, and this is more in work than at home, but it's all one life.
Yeah.
Is that I always spoke my mind with determination. And it got me in trouble with the bosses. And it was useful. It was the way I am. And I think it would probably have made my life easier if I'd been a little less aggressive and a little more agreeable. When I was at Yale in the 60s, women were not aggressive. They were agreeable, and I wasn't. I mean, I was, but when I thought something, I said what I thought, and I used my hand.
Oh, and I use my hand too. I bet it's not.
So
I'm like this all day. Oh.
And it got me in trouble. And I didn't make a mistake, and I was not wrong. I was ill-advised. But nobody, when I was a young Jewish woman at Yale in the 60s, nobody was going to tell me what to do. And I think I could have handled some of the authorities better. But disagreeing is never easy in a group. So we need coaching. We needed coaching on that. And it's something that perhaps we can offer in the most modest way.
So never disagree in a group because you make more enemies?
Think twice before you sound off, because people come from different points of view, particularly in our culture at this time. You want to have lifetime enemies because you said something that just came off your brain? I'm not saying you shouldn't say what you believe. I think you have to stand up for what you believe, but do it in such a way as not to infuriate people so they can't hear you.
That's a great advice, actually. And we don't give it, not really. All right. So finally, what do you wish people understood about giving advice to grannies?
To grannies, to me. I wish they would understand that I am still an autonomous human being, that even though I may forget some names, I have a lot of wisdom, that my experience, you must be patient with me when I tell the same story for the 10th time. And you must remember that I love you very much.
Oh my God. And there is no better way to end this podcast today. I think for me, the way I'm going to wrap it up is simply saying that same grape.
Same grape.
Different season. The wisdom is in knowing when to pour and when to put the bottle away.
You bet. And let your heart be the decanter.
Yes. Well, on that note, we would like to say thank you so much for
Great to
sticking
see you.
with us on the Grannies podcast. It's been a wonderful time with Granny Jane as usual. Please send us your thoughts, your comments,
And your criticisms.
and your criticisms to thegrannies.podcast@gmail.com. Thegrannies.podcast@gmail.com. Continue to like us on Spotify or wherever you get your podcast. Send us a comment. We would love to hear from you. I will see you next time. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you for coming on the ride with us. Jane and I would like to hear from you. Please send your comments to thegrannies.podcast@gmail.com. thegrannies.podcast@gmail.com. You can listen to the Grannies podcast on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcast, or wherever you get your podcast.